Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be doing an exercise to strengthen your understanding of deploying applications to the internet. So we're going to open our phonebook folder and we're going to navigate to the source folder, to services, and we're going to open persons.js. Here, in order to link the front end with our backend, we need to replace the base URL with the link to our backend. But here we can actually use a relative link instead of having all this, which is going to be common to both our front end and our back end. We can simply use /persons/API. So this is a relative link. If you don't understand why we can use this, you can head to the previous video in this playlist where we explain why we can use relative links. So now we can save this file and we're going to head to our phonebook server. In the phonebook server, we're going to open the index.js file. So as we saw in the previous video, when we try to send a request to our server, we're going to get blocked by a policy called course. And in order to get past that, we need to install the course middleware. So we're going to open our terminal and we're going to navigate to our phonebook server. And in here, we're going to run npm install course. And in order to use it, we're going to have to first import it. So we're going to have course equal to require, and in parentheses, we're going to pass in course. And to use it, we're going to have app.use, and in parentheses, we're going to pass in the course function. So this is going to let us send requests to our backend server. Another middleware that we need is the static middleware. As we saw in the previous video, this is going to let our server and our backend share the same base URL. So this is the reason why we could use relative links in our front end. In order to use the static middleware, we're going to have app.use, and in parentheses, we're going to pass in express.static, and in parentheses, we're going to pass in dist. So we haven't created this folder yet, but it's going to be the folder that contains the production build of our front end. And the final thing we need to change in our backend is the port number. So at the bottom, instead of having 3001, we're going to have a condition. So we're going to have or, and we're going to pass in process.env.port. So this is going to let render use its own port number. And if that port number is not available, it's going to use 3001. So now we can save the index.js file. The next step is getting the production build of our front end. In order to do that, we're going to head to the terminal and we're going to navigate to our front end, which is in the phonebook folder. And in here, we're going to run the command for production build, which is npm run build. Once that's done, if we navigate to our folder, we can see that the dist folder has been created. So we're going to copy this folder and we're going to move it to our backend. So we're going to paste it in our backend folder. The final thing we need to do is push our backend and our front end, the production build of our front end, to GitHub. And as we saw in the previous video, we're going to open our backend folder individually. So we're going to head over to open folder and we're going to locate our backend project, which is in phonebook server, and we're going to select this folder. And once we've opened the backend folder, we're going to head to source control and we're going to press on the publish to GitHub button. If you haven't watched the previous video, you need to install Git, and you also need to set your name and your email using git bash, and you also need to link your GitHub account by signing in. If you don't know how to do this, you can watch the previous video in this playlist. So we're going to press on publish to GitHub, and it's going to ask us to choose between a private and a public repository. We're going to choose a public repository since render works using a public repository. And as we discussed in the previous video, we don't need to include node_modules. That is because render is going to install all our dependencies by itself. So we can untick node_modules and press on OK. And that's it. A new repository has been created in our GitHub account. So we can head over to render. If you haven't watched the previous video, what we did was create an account and render using your GitHub account Once you've done that, you can head over to New, and we're going to choose Web Service, and we're going to click on Next. And at the bottom, we can put in the link to our GitHub repository. This link is going to consist of github.com/your GitHub username / the name of the repository. So I'm going to put in my repository. Once you've done that, you can click on Continue. You can give your application a name. We're going to give it phonebook-app. For the region, you can choose a region that's closest to you. For me, it's Frankfurt. And we need to head down to build command, and we're going to replace it with npm install. This is going to install all our dependencies. And for the start command, we're going to use npm start. Once we've done that, we can scroll down. We're going to be using the free version, and we're going to press on Create Web Service. So that is it. Now our application is live, and we can use this link. So we're going to copy it. We're actually not getting the numbers that were stored in our backend. So if we open the developer console, we can see that it failed to load resources, and the server responded with a status code of 404. This is actually because we used the wrong relative link in our front end. So in order to fix that, we're going to head back to our code. We're going to open our front end folder, which is phonebook exercise, and we're going to head to the source folder, then to services, and we're going to open persons.js. So the mistake we made was in the base URL. Instead of /persons/API, the link to our server was /API/persons. So now that we've updated the person.js file, we need to rebuild the production build. So in order to do that, we're going to open our terminal, and we're going to navigate to the phonebook folder, and we're going to run npm run build. So this is going to update the dist folder. So we're going to head over to the dist folder, and we're going to copy it, and we're going to head to our backend, which is phonebook server, and we're going to delete the previous dist folder, and we're going to paste in the new one. Now, once that's done, we need to push the different changes to GitHub, and we're going to open the backend folder individually. So we're going to head to File, Open Folder, and we're going to open the phonebook server. Once we are here, we're going to head over to source control, and we're going to type in a message that's going to say fix frontend build, and we're going to commit. We're going to commit all the changes, and finally we need to push our commit to the remote GitHub repository. Once that's done, we can head back to render. Since we made changes, we need to redeploy our application, so we're going to head over to manual deploy, and we're going to select deploy latest commit. Now, if we open the link to our application, we can see that the numbers have been properly displayed. So this has been an exercise on deploying your application to the internet. Thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel to show your support.